So thanks for being with me today, Nila. Tell us about yourself and what it is that you do.
Well, as you said, my name is Nila. I've a wife. My husband is in the Army. He's been in the Army for almost 20 years now. September will be his 20-year anniversary. I'm also a mother. I've got three kiddos. I've got a 10-year-old son, a 4-year-old son who's mildly feral, and then an almost 2-year-old little girl. And it's always that second kid. Like every time they just surprise you.
Right.
I'm a blogger with Mil-Spec Mom, and then I'm also a firearms instructor with our company, Resilient Security Solutions, which I focus on not only the firearm side of the house, but also disaster resiliency and mitigation education too.
Very cool. At the Secure Dad, I say that every parent is a protector, and I think you definitely would agree with that. But do you think parents, when their kids are born, they get a new set of instincts, these protective instincts kind of come out?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. I think just as people, the way that, I feel like we're wired, we all have that self-preservation. We all want to survive. We all want to continue to exist in the way that we have known. But I think when you have a child, you understand how much they can't protect themselves and how much of a weight and responsibility you have now as their protector provider to kind of step up into that role of not only protecting them, but also teaching them how to protect themselves in the future, because you're not going to be around in every single moment that they run into issues. And so, yeah, I think their protective instincts can be such a huge asset to parents. But I think if you're not properly trained, if you don't have that proper mindset, if you don't have, the self-defense classes, or, maybe it's a firearms class, or, maybe it's a flashlight self-defense course, then I think that protective instinct can kind of borderline on a little bit of a liability sometimes, is because, as a parent, you want to protect your kids and you can go a little high and right sometimes. So we need to make sure that, with that protective instinct, that we're honing that and training that to ensure that we're staying within the confines of the law, because at the end of the day, our kids need us here. They don't need to visit us in a jail cell.
Exactly. And that's my next question for you. How as we as parents flip that protector switch to be more aware of how we can protect the ones that we love?
Yeah. So like I said, I think not every parent, most parents, there are all kinds of people out there.
Yes, you were right there.
um, Most parents, they have that drive and that want to protect their children. And so I think having an understanding that there are bad people in the world who just want to do bad things just for the sake of being able to do it, like free will. It is what it is.
Right. Yes.
And so I think with just existing in life and going through the normal life, as normal parents do, of dealing with sippy cups and naps and, trying to find a matching pair of shoes or get the right snack so your kid doesn't scream at you for getting the wrong kind of granola bar. You know, we have this phase where we go through life, but when you leave the comfort of your home and you go out to where other people also do life, you have to be ready. Like you have to be ready to go into like mama bear mode or papa bear mode to protect those that you love. And I think understanding first that switch exists, and then understanding how we can best utilize that switch to protect everyone in that process.
And I agree. I agree. I think that's great. And you actually brought up a point that I've thought about a lot. I do say that every parent is a protector, and that's a little bit. I would say most of us are, but there are parents out there who are not good people, who don't want to be parents, and who actually hurt their own kids. So yeah, I totally understand that, and that's a very good point to bring up. Not we talk about in times of social distancing. I've been teaching my son here at home because the school is shut down, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is a great time to spend with our family." But for some kids, this is not a good time because they're not in a good living situation, and that's just something that I think we need to keep in mind, that this
Yeah.
hasn't been a good comforting. Home is not always a good comforting place for every kid in your kid's
Yeah,
class.
exactly.
So
And then you have like the food insecurities as well, of people who depend on the school system and the school district to feed their kids certain meals that they can't. Like it's a great time to be home for some, and then it's not for others. It's not a blanket statement for everyone out there.
right, right, right. So how is it that you and your husband approach protecting your family?
First and foremost, with tenacity, we take that job very seriously. We definitely believe that God has given us these children for a reason. They're ours to love and protect. They're also ours to teach how to protect themselves, protect each other, and protect others. And so we view it kind of if you're familiar with Pat Mack, he's another firearms instructor on Instagram. And, he always says that you are the agent in charge of your own personal security detail. And that's exactly how we view it, is that my husband has an extensive background in executive protection. He worked for the State Department for quite a while. And so we view it as a two-man executive protection team of like, our kids are the principal. They are the high value target because they are obviously our everything. And so we view it as something, it is our biggest job. It is our most important job. You don't get a day off from protecting your kids. And so it can also be an exhausting job. But at the end of the day, it's one of the most rewarding things that you have, is being able to spend time with your kids.
Absolutely. And I like that you brought up Patrick McNamara. I loved his book, Sentinel. I never agreed with the book more like word for word than I did when I read his.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So what are some ways that we can coach our kids in their personal safety?
Yeah. So we have always taught our kids that, we don't want you to start fights. We don't want you to be the bully. But if you end up in a fight, you better win.
Yeah.
So kind of with that mindset of, there are certain circumstances in which, you might get in some kind of an altercation with someone. And, as long as you're not starting it, it's fine. And so we want to make sure that our kids know how to defend themselves, obviously with some kind of a kids self-defense class, whether it's martial arts. I mean, there's so many great different programs out there for kids. But at the end of the day, we also want them just to be aware, because everything starts with seeing it coming. And so we play this game with our kids called Head on a Swivel. We're like, either me or my husband will say, all right, kids, head on a swivel. And so they'll look around and they'll tell us what you see. Like, oh, I see a man in blue jeans over there, or I see a red car, or I see a dog. And they'll just tell me what they see in their environment. And that we're hoping, our oldest is only 10, but we're hoping that that kind of gets them aware of, like, you have to pay attention to what's going on around you. Like, you have to understand, like, your world is not here. Your world is 360 and it is dynamic and it engages with you. And you have to see things coming. You have to turn you have to open your eyes and put the phone away and stop being distracted by all the things and all the bugs and all the leaves. And you have to see what else is happening around you.
I couldn't agree more. One of the games that I play with my son is called Count the Doors, because I want him to start to be able to realize, how do I get out of somewhere if something goes wrong? Like if there's a fire, or if something scarier happens. So we'll go to a restaurant, we'll sit down like at a McDonald's or something, and I'll say, okay, so let's count the doors. And so he'll get up, when he was a little kid, he would just like stand up in the booth and he would like point and loudly count to all the doors. It was cute. But now he'll just quietly look, and I'll say something like, okay, now do you think, we can see the door to the men's room, but do you think there's a door to the ladies' room? And he's like, oh yeah, there's that one. Do you think there's a door in the back to the kitchen that the truck loads the food in? Oh yeah, there's probably one there too. And it finally got to the point that he was like, when I would ask him, he would just tell me immediately, because he was already thinking about it, because he knew I was going to ask the question. And that's what I wanted him to do. I wanted him to have a mental map of the places that we go, so that if something goes wrong, like a fire at a restaurant or something, he knows where to go. He doesn't have to waste time looking. His body will just naturally move towards the closest one. So that's awesome. It's nice to know that there are other parents out there playing these games with their kids.
Yep. No, every little bit helps. And the more we can get them just to open their eyes and understand, one of the big things that we also teach our kid is normal versus abnormal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, whether you can give me a list of what the FBI says is pre-attack indicators or not, what's normal for your surroundings and what's not. And so I want them to be able to identify, like, hey, that guy's acting kind of weird. Is that normal or abnormal? Well, that's abnormal. It's like, okay. That person standing in line, is that normal or abnormal? Well, that's normal. Because I want them to be able to gauge, like, your spidey senses will tell you what's wrong with your environment, but you've got to be paying attention to it. And it's okay to say, like, that's weird for my surroundings, that's weird for my situation, and make a decision based on that, because an abnormal situation also calls for an abnormal response from you. So trying to teach them that early.
Very cool. Very cool. So what is one thing that you wished every parent knew about protecting their family?
Oh, goodness.
I know it's a big question. It's a big
It
one.
is a big question. Um, I think the one thing I would want to know is that every parent is capable of protecting their own family. We get a lot of, especially mothers, and that's not, it is what it is, being the female species of things. Women tend to be just a little bit more timid with some of this protection is that every parent is absolutely capable. It might take some training. It might take putting some big girl panties on and getting the work done. It might take, a little bit of being uncomfortable in the range, or uncomfortable in the self-defense class, or uncomfortable in whatever format you choose to go with. But you are absolutely capable of being that person for your family, regardless of your skills, regardless of any of it. You are absolutely capable.
I like that response. That's really good. So I'll ask you this real quick. Since you are an instructor,
Mm-hmm.
is it enough to sit and watch fight videos on YouTube and watch firearm instructors on Instagram? Is that enough to keep somebody safe, or do you actually need to get out there and do something?
I think you actually need to go out there and do something. While I do like watching, the YouTube videos and the Instagram videos of people shooting, because it's not useless, but it's
Right.
not enough. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, there are a lot of states, even I was talking to someone about this morning, is that there are a lot of states that only require that you sit down for a 4-hour PowerPoint to get your concealed carry. And I'm like, on one hand, I get it, hashtag Constitution.
Right.
On the
Right.
other hand, I don't, because then you get no practical application out of it. You don't understand, like, what the trigger pull feels like, what the recoil feels like, how to get sight alignment, sight picture back, how to get sights on target if there's multiple threats that are presented to you. And so I think that you need to have that practical application out there of what's going on, because not only for, I guess, mainly just for yourself, because as a parent, I want to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I know how to use the defensive tool that is in charge of my child's safety. And just by watching a YouTube video, that doesn't give me the confidence in my skills and in that tool to be able to defend my family the way that I want to.
Right. And
It's really for yourself.
yes, and you're right to say that, it's not useless, but it's not enough. That's a really good way to approach that answer. And I'll say as somebody, you're a trainer, you're an instructor. I'm usually the person that comes in and wants to get trained and wants to know more. I enjoy it. And it does take a lot of courage, like you were talking about earlier. And it is uncomfortable to say, okay, I need to go learn self-defense, or I need to go take, lessons on how to shoot from the holster, and, how to shoot from a concealed position and all that sort of stuff. But
Right.
once you get there and once you get into it, it's actually a lot of fun and very beneficial.
Right.
And then you'll want to do it more. So,
Right.
um,
Absolutely.
just, yeah, like you were saying, just get over that initial discomfort and it'll be all okay after that.
Yeah. And I will say this is that we've had many women come through our class, and I kid you not, they cry the whole time. And that is absolutely okay, because one, we're females, we are emotional beings. That's how we get our stress out. That's how we process things sometimes. Like, it's just part of being a female, is sometimes we cry. But I think a lot of the times they're just, one, they're overwhelmed because they're
Mhm.
learning this new skill. They're out in front of everyone, so being an instructor, you try to make it as comfortable as you can, but there's certain stuff and a level of stress that you have to have in the class because of the capabilities of a firearm. You want to make sure that there's safety there, and there's a level of respect for that tool, obviously. And I think they also understand the gravity of knowing how well or how not well you do initially, and seeing your skills built upon that. And so, yeah, we've had women that have come through and they cried through the whole classroom portion, and then we ate lunch and they cried through the whole range, but they still did it. They still showed up. They still did the work. They still got their certificate at the end of the day, because they understood the gravity of what they were doing. And I think that's probably what made them so emotional. It was new, it was scary, it was overwhelming, but that's what's going to save the lives of their kids. And that's
Right.
what made them, an excellent shot at the end of the day, because they understood the gravity of what was going on. They had to have that information. It wasn't just, oh, I'm doing this and this is kind of uncomfortable, like a roller coaster ride. Like, it's uncomfortable and it's fun, but that's not going to save a lot to my kids. Like, learning how to use a firearm and really putting yourself out there.
Very good. Well, I appreciate your time. So, Nila, if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to know more about you, where can they find you?
I'll have two places: on my blog, which is milspecmom.com. And then our training company, education company, is resilientsecurity solutions.com. And then on Instagram is Resilient Security Solutions.
Great. And thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you talking to, my audience about what you do. And thank you for being an instructor. Thank you for putting out all this content that you do for free, out of your own pocket because you're passionate about helping families stay safe. That's something I very much understand. And I appreciate you for what you do.
Thank you so much. It was great to chat with you.